generations, the question of whether we are alone in the universe has captivated humanity. It has been the domain of philosophers, scientists, and storytellers. But for just as long, another story has been unfolding in the shadows. A story told by military pilots, radar operators, and intelligence officers. These were not tales of fiction, but official reports of encounters with unidentified flying objects, or UFOs, that moved in ways that defied our understanding of physics and aerodynamics. For decades, these incredible accounts and the data that supported them were classified, hidden away from the public eye, under the seal of national security. They were explained away, redacted, or simply denied, but the truth has a way of coming to light. In recent years, a seismic shift has occurred. Governments around the world have begun to declassify and release a trove of official videos, documents, and testimonies that were once top secret. This evidence is not blurry, grainy footage from a backyard camera. It is high-resolution thermal imaging from military aircraft, official audio recordings from terrified Air Force personnel, and radar data confirming objects of impossible size and speed. This is the proof that has been held back for years. In this video, we will delve into 10 of the most compelling declassified UFO incidents ever made public, from objects disabling nuclear weapons to craft seen by thousands of people at once. These cases represent the most powerful official evidence that suggests we are, in fact, not alone. Our first case takes us to November of 2004, off the coast of San Diego. For days, the crew of the United States ship Princeton, a high-tech missile cruiser, had been tracking unidentified objects on their advanced radar. These objects would appear at 80,000 feet, drop to 20,000 feet in under a second, and hover motionless before vanishing. The performance was so bizarre, the crew initially suspected a system error. On November 14th, 2 of the Navy's best pilots were sent to investigate. Commander David Fravor and his wingmen were flying their Super Hornet fighter jets when they were diverted to intercept one of the mystery contacts. Arriving at the location, they saw nothing on their radar, but with their own eyes, they saw a patch of turbulent white water in the otherwise calm ocean below. Hovering erratically just above it was a smooth, white, 40-foot object with no wings, engines, or exhaust. It looked exactly like a Tic Tac. As Commander Fravor descended for a closer look, the object noticed him and began to mirror his movements, ascending toward his jet. Fravor decided to make an aggressive move to cut it off, but the instant he did, the Tic Tac accelerated at a speed he described as otherworldly and disappeared from sight. Seconds later, the Princeton's radar picked it up again, 60 miles away. Another flight was launched, this time capturing the object on an advanced infrared camera. That footage, now famously known as the Tic Tac video, was officially released by the Pentagon. It shows the object performing maneuvers that defy our known laws of physics. A sighting corroborated by multiple expert pilots and the most advanced radar system in the fleet. The incident remains one of the most credible and baffling UFO encounters in military history. 11 years later, in 2015, the mystery continued, this time off the east coast of the United States. Pilots from the United States ship Theodore Roosevelt Carrier Strike Group began having almost daily encounters with what they called unidentified aerial phenomena. These encounters became so frequent that pilots knew to expect them during their training missions. One of the most compelling pieces of evidence from this period is a video that came to be known as Gimbal. The footage was captured by the infrared camera of a Super Hornet and shows a strange flying object against a powerful headwind. In the audio, you can hear the pilot's complete disbelief. One exclaims, "Look at that thing, dude, it's rotating." Just after he says this, the object performs a seemingly impossible 90-degree turn without losing any speed or altitude. Crucially, the pilot then adds, "There's a whole fleet of them. This was not an isolated object." According to pilot Ryan Graves from the same squadron, these objects would fly in formation for up to 12 hours at a time, far beyond the capability of any known aircraft. Some were described as dark cubes, housed inside clear spheres. When the Pentagon declassified the Gimbal video, it confirmed that the footage was authentic and the object was officially designated as unidentified. It displayed no visible means of propulsion and performed a maneuver that should be aerodynamically impossible. The combination of high-tech sensor data and testimony from multiple pilots makes the Gimbal incident a landmark case. The Go Fast video was captured during the same 2015 timeframe as the Gimbal incident, by pilots from the same Theodore Roosevelt strike group. Also recorded on an advanced infrared camera, the footage shows a small, round object moving at what appears to be an incredible speed just above the surface of the ocean. The pilots are audibly stunned, with one laughing in disbelief as he struggles to maintain a lock on the fast-moving target. However, this particular video comes with an official explanation. According to the Pentagon's Anomaly Resolution Office, the object's extreme speed was an optical illusion. The effect, known as parallax, was created by the perspective of the fast-moving jet filming a much slower object. Analysts concluded the object was actually at an altitude of 13,000 feet and was moving at only about 30 miles per hour, consistent with a balloon or other airborne debris. While the Go Fast video itself may have a mundane explanation, its context is anything but ordinary. It was recorded during a period of intense UFO activity, where pilots were reporting near mid-air collisions with objects that demonstrated truly extraordinary capabilities. These other objects were tracked remaining stationary in hurricane-force winds before accelerating to supersonic speeds. So while this specific video might be explained, it is a single piece of a much larger and still very mysterious puzzle that confronted the United States Navy. Often called Britain's Roswell, our next case takes us to the dense woods of Rendlesham Forest in the United Kingdom during the height of the Cold War. In late December of 1980, the forest bordered two critical military installations, RAF Bentwaters and RAF Woodbridge, both operated by the United States Air Force and rumored to house nuclear weapons. On the night of December 26th, security patrolmen near the east gate of RAF Woodbridge saw strange lights descending into the forest. Believing it was a downed aircraft, 3 patrolmen were sent to investigate. What they found was not a plane. They reported seeing a glowing, metallic, triangular object hovering just above the ground. It was about 9 feet long and 6 feet high, with a pulsating red light on top and blue lights underneath. As they approached, the object maneuvered through the trees and then shot off at an incredible speed. The next day, investigators found 3 distinct impressions in the ground where the object had been, along with broken tree branches. But the most significant event occurred 2 nights later. The base's deputy commander, Lieutenant Colonel Charles Holt, was skeptical of the initial reports and decided to lead his own investigation team into the forest. He carried a microcassette recorder with him to document everything he saw and heard. That audio recording is now declassified. On the tape, Holt and his men can be heard confirming the indentations and taking radiation readings at the site, which showed levels significantly higher than normal background radiation. Suddenly, they witnessed the object again. Holt describes a red, pulsing light that moved through the trees, dripping what appeared to be molten metal. The object then fired a beam of light directly down at their feet, and later, more beams were seen striking the ground near the base's weapons storage area. The audio captures the raw, real-time confusion and alarm of high-ranking military officers as they encounter a phenomenon they cannot explain. The combination of multiple, credible military witnesses, physical trace evidence, radiation readings, and an official audio recording makes the Rendlesham Forest incident one of the most well-documented close encounters in history. On the evening of March 13, 1997, one of the largest mass UFO sightings in modern history unfolded across the state of Arizona. The event occurred in 2 distinct waves. The first was a formation of amber-colored lights in a V-shape seen by thousands of people across a 300-mile stretch of the state. But it was the second event that became truly legendary. At around 10 p.m., a colossal V-shaped or boomerang-shaped craft, estimated by some witnesses to be a mile wide, flew silently and slowly over the city of Phoenix. Thousands of residents watched from their backyards and highways as this solid object, lined with 5 massive lights, glided through the sky, blocking out the stars behind it. The sheer scale of the event was unprecedented. It was witnessed by people from all walks of life, including police officers, pilots, and air traffic controllers. One of the most prominent witnesses was the governor of Arizona at the time, Fife Symington. He initially tried to quell public panic by mocking the incident at a press conference, bringing an aide out in an alien costume. However, years later, he publicly confessed that he had witnessed the craft himself that night. He described it as enormous and otherworldly, and stated that it was not a man-made object. He was adamant that it was something beyond our capabilities. The United States Air Force eventually issued an official explanation, stating that the lights were simply military flares dropped by A-10 Warthog aircraft during a training exercise over the Barry Goldwater Range. While this explanation might account for the first wave of lights seen in the distance, it fails to address the thousands of eyewitnesses who saw a single, solid, structured craft flying at low altitude without making a sound. The Phoenix Lights remains a profound mystery, supported by widespread video footage, photographs, and the testimony of thousands of people, including the state's own governor, who were all convinced they saw something not of this world. Between 1989 and 1990, the nation of Belgium experienced an unprecedented wave of UFO sightings that were so credible the Belgian military launched a full-scale investigation. It all began on November 29, 1989, when two police officers reported seeing a large, flat, triangular craft with bright lights at each corner and a red light in the center. It hovered silently over the town of Eupen before moving away. This was just the beginning. Over the next several months, more than 2,000 written statements were filed by witnesses, including over 600 from police officers, all describing these silent, low-flying triangles. The phenomenon reached its peak on the night of March 30, 1990. On that night, the objects were detected on multiple ground radar stations, as well as the radar systems of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. The Belgian Air Force took the threat seriously and scrambled two F-16 fighter jets to intercept. What followed was a cat-and-mouse game that defied the laws of physics. The F-16 pilots managed to achieve radar lock on the targets multiple times. The declassified data from these encounters is stunning. The objects were tracked, making instantaneous changes in speed and direction that are impossible for any conventional aircraft. For example, the radar showed one object accelerating from 170 miles per hour to over 100 miles per hour in seconds. In another instance, a target dropped from an altitude of 10,000 feet to just 500 feet in less than 5 seconds, a descent rate that would be fatal to a human pilot. The pilots themselves reported seeing the objects visually, describing them as fast-moving lights that would change color and outmaneuver their advanced jets with ease. The Belgian military was remarkably transparent about the incident, holding a press conference where they openly admitted they had no explanation for the objects, which displayed capabilities far beyond any known technology. For over 30 years, it was considered the holy grail of UFO photography, a picture so clear and so compelling that the government allegedly buried it to prevent public panic. The story begins on August 4, 1990, near the town of Calvine in the Scottish Highlands. Two young hikers were enjoying an evening walk when they saw a massive, solid, diamond-shaped object hovering silently in the sky. They were stunned, but had the presence of mind to take 6 color photographs. Moments later, a military jet, believed to be a Harrier, screamed into the valley. It did not attack the object, but appeared to circle it, as if escorting or investigating it before flying off. The diamond-shaped craft then ascended vertically at high speed and disappeared. The hikers, wishing to remain anonymous, gave the photos and negatives to a Scottish newspaper. The newspaper, in turn, handed them over to the United Kingdom's Ministry of Defence for comment. And then they vanished. The ministry launched an investigation but kept the findings and the photographs themselves classified. For 3 decades, the Calvine photo was nothing more than a legend in the UFO community, a rumored perfect picture that was too good to be seen. That changed when a retired RAF press officer named Craig Lindsay, who had been the original contact between the newspaper and the ministry back in 1990, decided to release the one copy he had kept. The image that emerged was breathtaking. It is a high-resolution color photograph showing a large, structured metallic diamond hanging in the sky. It is not a blur or a light. In the background, the military jet can be seen, providing a clear sense of scale. The object is estimated to be around 100 feet long. The Ministry of Defense has never offered a definitive explanation, though some have speculated it was a secret American prototype. but no known aircraft, then or now, matches its description. After 30 years of being hidden, the Calvine photo is now considered by many to be the single most compelling piece of photographic evidence for an unidentified flying object ever taken. On the night of November 17, 1986, a routine cargo flight turned into one of the most well-documented UFO encounters in aviation history. Japan Airlines Flight 1628, a Boeing 747, was flying over northeastern Alaska under the command of Captain Kenju Terauchi, a senior pilot with more than 10,000 hours of flight experience. He, his co-pilot, and the flight engineer first noticed two unidentified lights flying in formation with their aircraft. Captain Terauchi initially dismissed them as military jets, but they were behaving erratically, moving with an agility that was impossible for conventional planes. He described them as ships with numerous thrusters that would glow brightly and then stop as the craft came to an abrupt halt. As the crew watched, these two smaller craft vanished, only to be replaced by something far more terrifying. A colossal, walnut-shaped object appeared, which Captain Terauchi described in his official report as being twice the size of an aircraft carrier. This was not just a visual sighting in the cockpit. The crew contacted air traffic control in Anchorage, and the controller at the Federal Aviation Administration, or FAA, confirmed they had a primary, solid radar target right next to the jumbo jet. The United States military's regional radar at Elmendorf Air Force Base also confirmed the presence of an unknown object pacing the airliner. For nearly an hour, the crew of Flight 1628, along with multiple civilian and military radar operators, tracked this gigantic mothership as it followed them across the Alaskan sky. Captain Terauchi was so unnerved by the object's size and proximity that he requested permission to take evasive action, descending and turning his 747 in an attempt to escape. The FAA later released the official audio recordings and radar data from the incident, confirming the crew's report. Despite the overwhelming evidence from multiple sources, Captain Terauchi was temporarily grounded by the airline for speaking publicly about the encounter, a stark warning to other pilots. The incident remains a cornerstone case, backed by expert witnesses and confirmed by both civilian and military technology. Perhaps the most alarming encounters are those that involve our most dangerous weapons. On the morning of March 16, 1967, at Malmstrom Air Force Base in Montana, something unknown demonstrated a capability that sent shockwaves through the United States military. Malmstrom was home to a vast field of Minutemen nuclear missile silos, the backbone of America's Cold War deterrent. On that day, security guards on the surface began frantically calling their commander, Captain Robert Salas, who was stationed 60 feet underground in a concrete launch control capsule. The guards were reporting a large, silent, glowing red UFO hovering directly over one of the missile launch facilities. As Captain Salas listened to the panicked reports from his men above, the impossible began to happen right in front of him. On his control panel, one by one, the lights for his 10 nuclear missiles switched from green, meaning ready, to red, meaning inoperable. Within seconds, his entire flight of 10 active nuclear warheads had been disabled. This was a no-go failure, a critical event that complex safety systems were designed to prevent. There was no alert, no reason for the shutdown. The missiles simply went offline. This was not an isolated event. At another, separate launch control facility miles away, the exact same thing was happening. Another commander reported a UFO sighting over his silos, and his 10 missiles also shut down simultaneously. In a single morning, a total of 20 intercontinental ballistic missiles were rendered useless while unidentified objects hovered overhead. The incident was immediately classified as top secret. The men involved, including Captain Salas, were debriefed, sworn to secrecy, and ordered to never speak of it again. For decades, they obeyed. But years later, Salas and several other Air Force officers came forward, providing sworn affidavits and testifying before government officials about what they witnessed. Their chilling, credible accounts suggest that an unknown intelligence has not only been monitoring our nuclear capabilities, but has the power to neutralize them at will. Our final piece of declassified evidence comes from April 25, 2013, and showcases a technology that appears to be generations ahead of our own, a DHC-8 turboprop aircraft, operated by the Department of Homeland Security, was conducting a routine flight near the coast of Aguadilla, Puerto Rico. Suddenly, the aircraft's advanced military-grade thermal imaging camera detected an unknown object moving rapidly near the airport. The resulting video, which was later leaked by a whistleblower and confirmed as authentic, provides some of the most stunning UFO footage ever seen. The video shows a small, metallic-looking object, perhaps 5 feet in length, flying over land and then out over the ocean. It moves at speeds reaching 120 miles per hour at low altitude, displaying no wings, no exhaust, and no visible method of propulsion. Its thermal signature is colder than its surroundings, ruling out any kind of conventional engine. The object's flight path is intelligent and controlled, maneuvering with incredible precision. But the most extraordinary moment of the footage is when the object heads straight for the Atlantic Ocean. Without slowing down, it enters the water seamlessly, creating almost no splash. It does not crash. It performs a perfect transition from an aerial vehicle to a submersible one. The thermal camera continues to track the object as it moves effortlessly beneath the waves. A few moments later, the footage shows the object re-emerging from the water. It then appears to either split into 2 identical objects or is joined by a second craft that was also underwater, and the pair flies off into the night. Scientific analysis of the video has ruled out all conventional explanations like birds, balloons, or drones. The footage is official evidence of a true transmedium vehicle, a craft capable of operating with equal mastery in both the air and the sea, a capability that, as far as we know, does not publicly exist. From the skies over the Pacific to the forests of England, from the deserts of Arizona to the cold depths of the Atlantic, these 10 cases represent more than just strange lights in the sky. They are official records, backed by trained observers, advanced sensor data, and at times physical evidence. We have seen official Pentagon videos of objects performing impossible accelerations, heard the real-time audio of Air Force officers encountering a craft that left radiation behind, and reviewed military radar data tracking objects that defy the laws of physics. We have examined a photograph hidden for 30 years and heard the testimony of men who watched as our nuclear missiles were disabled by an unknown intelligence. Taken individually, each case is compelling, but viewed together they paint a picture of a persistent global phenomenon that has been observed for decades. The common threads are undeniable. Silent, structured craft operating with a technology that appears to be generations if not centuries ahead of our own. They demonstrate transmedium travel, moving from air to water with ease, and an apparent interest in our military and nuclear capabilities. For decades, this reality was hidden behind a wall of official denial and classification. Witnesses were silenced, and evidence was buried. But that wall is now crumbling. The declassification of these videos, documents, and testimonies marks a profound shift in government transparency. The evidence we've reviewed does not definitively prove that these are extraterrestrial visitors, but it does prove beyond a reasonable doubt that something is in our skies and seas that we cannot explain, identify, or control. The era of ridicule and automatic dismissal is over, replaced by a serious, if reluctant, official inquiry. The question is no longer simply, are we alone? The declassified evidence forces us to ask something far more immediate. What are these objects? Who is operating them? And what does their presence mean for the future of humanity?